Welcome to the Tales of Deception YouTube channel, where we share intriguing and surprising stories about family and social relationships, helping you expand your perspective and gain a deeper understanding of life. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on daily stories filled with inspiration and valuable lessons. Today, I bring you a profound story about a woman facing betrayal from her husband and family, which completely alters her emotions and relationships. Let's dive in right now.
It was a crisp, beautiful morning in the heart of Seattle. The sun rose slowly over the city, casting a golden glow through the towering skyscrapers. As I sipped my coffee, the steam curling upward in the quiet apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something I couldn't yet put my finger on. Life had been good, or so I thought. My name is Serafina Hayes, and I was living a life most would envy. I had it all. A successful career, a beautiful home, a loving husband, and a picture-perfect family. But that morning, everything changed. Every morning, I woke up to what seemed like a perfect life. A successful career, a beautiful home, a loving husband, and a family that appeared to be everything anyone could want. I was Serafina Hayes, a woman who had it all, or so I thought. The world saw a strong woman who balanced everything perfectly. My job, my home, and my relationships. On the surface, it was all flawless. Damian, my husband, was always charming, always perfect. He had the career, the wealth, and the reputation everyone envied. I had a stable job, a cozy home, and a life I thought was solid. Each morning I would prepare breakfast, the smell of freshly brewed coffee filling the air, while Damian rushed out the door, ready for another busy day at the office. He'd leave me with a quick kiss and a promise to talk later. And I, content with our routine, would spend my day working, thinking of nothing but how fortunate I was to have everything in place. We were the picture-perfect couple. But as the days passed, something started to feel off. I couldn't quite place it, but the familiarity of our routine began to feel hollow. It wasn't that anything specific had happened, but small unnoticed things seemed to pile up. Damian was busier than ever, always at work, always attending meetings. It was normal for him to be absent during dinner, but this time it felt different. I started wondering, why wasn't he spending more time with me? Then came the unexpected message from Elara, my sister. She wasn't one to make spontaneous plans, especially when she was busy with her own life. "Sarah, we're going on a trip this weekend. Are you coming with us?" The message read. It was strange. Why hadn't anyone mentioned this before? Why was she being so casual about it? It felt rehearsed, as though she had been planning it for some time. The unease grew in my chest. That weekend I decided to stay home. But the absence of Damian was becoming more pronounced. He wasn't just missing dinner. There were no phone calls, no updates. And when we did finally speak, it was a brief conversation with him saying, "I'm in a meeting," followed by a quick hang-up. Something didn't sit right with me. I tried to push it aside, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being kept in the dark. My mind raced with thoughts. Was there more to Damian's business trips than I knew? Had I been so caught up in my own world that I failed to see the cracks in our perfect life? At that moment I realized that maybe everything wasn't as perfect as it seemed. The life I thought I was living, secure and fulfilling, might just be a facade. A lie I had told myself for far too long. And the worst part was I had no idea how deep this lie ran. Was my marriage the perfect union I had believed, or was it a carefully crafted illusion? The unsettling feeling grew stronger, and with each passing day, I began to wonder how long I could ignore the truth. I had built a life, but now the question was it the life I had chosen, or had I been living in the shadow of lies? The first sign that something was wrong came when I returned home that evening. My father had been strangely distant during our usual call. "I'm really busy this week, Sarah. Let's talk later," he had said. It was odd because my father, Augustus Hawthorne, had never been too busy to call me, especially when it came to family. But I brushed it off, treating it like any other day. That Sunday evening, the family dinner was supposed to be our usual gathering. But my sister Elara wasn't there. Neither was Damian. It was strange. But I convinced myself they must have gotten caught up with work or other commitments. My mother, Arabella Monroe, always said that maintaining appearances was important. "Don't let the cracks show, darling," she always told me. It was her motto, keep up the facade even if things weren't perfect. But as I sat there alone at the dinner table, the empty chairs across from me felt like a silent accusation. Something wasn't right and I knew it. The silence in the room made my mind race. The sense of unease and worry was undeniable, even though I kept telling myself that it was probably just a coincidence. But the more I tried to push it aside, the more it grew inside of me. The next day, I tried to go about my work as usual, but the thoughts of what had happened kept circling in my mind. Damian's calls had been shorter and more rushed. He said work was overwhelming, but I was starting to feel like something wasn't right. Every time I asked about the weekend plans, he would brush me off, replying quickly that he had a last-minute meeting. The feeling of discomfort only grew stronger. I couldn't go on living with this uncertainty. Part of me wanted to confront the truth, but another part was terrified of what I might uncover. But then one afternoon, while I was checking some company emails and looking for necessary documents, I accidentally stumbled upon an unusual email. The subject line mentioned an important meeting Damian was attending this weekend, but the attendees weren't business partners. There was a strange name listed. Dark thoughts immediately flooded my mind, but I tried to stay calm. It wasn't enough evidence to make any conclusions, I told myself. However, I couldn't dismiss it. That evening, I sat down to another lonely dinner, in the quiet kitchen, my heart heavy with questions I had no answers for. The images of my family, the moments we had shared, now seemed like broken pieces I couldn't fit together. My mother always taught me that family came first, but did I truly understand that value? Was I living in a family where everything was just on the surface? The feeling of isolation among the relationships, the averted glances, made me feel unsafe. It was the first time in my life that I felt lonely, even surrounded by loved ones. As the realization hit me, I knew I couldn't keep hiding these doubts inside. I knew I had to take action. However, I wasn't sure where to start, or if when I faced the truth it would still be everything I believed it to be. The truth hit me the following week in a way I could never have imagined. I was at home, flipping through channels when I accidentally came across an advertisement for a luxurious cruise. The narrator spoke in a soft tone about the unforgettable experiences aboard the world's largest ship. And then, something unbelievable happened. The screen showed my husband, Damian, standing on the deck of the ship, smiling broadly, with my sister Elara standing next to him. They were laughing, raising champagne glasses, looking like the perfect couple. My heart stopped. What was happening? How could they betray me like this? Frozen, I grabbed my phone and called Damian. When he answered, his voice was as calm and cheerful as ever. "Hey Sarah, how's your day?" he asked, completely unaware of the storm rising within me. "Damian, where are you?" I tried to ask, my voice trembling. "I'm at the office, love. Important meeting," he replied. I couldn't hide the pain in my chest. I knew the truth now. This wasn't a business trip. They were lying to me. All of them, my husband, my sister, my parents. What was happening? How could I have been so blind? Why did I let them deceive me for so long? The feeling surged within me like a powerful wave, sweeping away everything I had believed in. The hugs, the smiles, the promises. All of it now seemed like lies, carefully crafted and hidden beneath the surface. At that moment I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I just stood there, phone in hand, with 1,000 questions racing through my mind. Suddenly everything became too clear. The betrayal wasn't just from one person. It was from everyone I loved most. The feeling of betrayal hit me like a knife to the heart. I looked at the screen, watching them, Damian and Elara, laughing together as if nothing was wrong. An unbelievable event. A betrayal I never thought would happen. They were my family. They were the people I trusted completely. How could they do this to me? I stood there, not knowing what to do. I wanted to call Damian back and confront him, but words couldn't express the anger and disappointment I felt. I didn't know if I had the courage to face the truth, or if doing so would mean losing everything. The truth was too painful, but I couldn't turn back. At that moment, I just stared at the screen, my heart racing. The people I loved most had betrayed me in a way I could never have imagined. I felt like I was falling into an abyss, not knowing how to climb out. I knew I had to get to the bottom of things. The images of Damian and Elara kept spinning in my mind. Every time I looked at them together, their smiles, I felt a rising sense of disgust and anger. I couldn't just live in the unknown anymore. I couldn't sit idly by and let this betrayal continue. I had to do something. And the first step was to uncover the truth. The first thing I did was check the joint account statements. My heart raced as I opened our shared bank account, feeling as though I was about to uncover something big. Every line of numbers, every transaction seemed to tell a story, and I had to decode it. What I found was a chain of lies, a web of deceit spun over several months. There were payments for luxury hotels, expensive dinners, none of which had anything to do with business. Damian had used his company account to cover up his relationship with Elara. My heart sank. I couldn't believe my eyes. How could they do this to me? How could he hide this from me for so long? Payments for trips I never knew about, receipts for dinners I had never seen. I couldn't breathe. Everything I thought was perfect now seemed to collapse. They had turned deception into an art. And I, the one they had deceived, was now staring at the truth. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't let myself be weak. To be sure, I continued digging. I began to look into the family finances, tracing the money trail that had been funneled into my sister Elara's real estate ventures. I found large transactions, sums of money transferred to companies Elara owned. But it wasn't just that. These investments were hidden like they were meant to cover something up. I looked at the records, each transaction, and then it hit me. Everything pointed to the same destination: tax evasion and money laundering. The betrayal was deeper than I had ever imagined. My family, the people I trusted most, had been lying to me all these years. My mother, my father, Elara. Each of them had a hand in this web. Every transaction, every amount of money had been carefully planned. It wasn't just a series of mistakes. This was a deliberate scheme, carefully concealed so that I would never find out. I felt like I was standing in front of a wall made of lies. Every piece of trust, every part of my family, now crumbled in front of me. I couldn't understand it. How could this have happened without me realizing? How many times had I placed my complete trust in them, thinking we were a close-knit family? But now all I saw was an unforgivable betrayal. The pain in me grew. But I couldn't cry. I couldn't allow myself to be weak. I had to be strong. Even though it felt like everything was falling apart. I couldn't stop now. I couldn't ignore what I had uncovered. I wasn't going to let them get away with what they had done. The truth had been exposed, and I would face it. I wouldn't live in the shadow of their lies anymore. The evidence was now enough for me to act. I wouldn't let them continue hiding the truth from me. And I would find a way to take back everything I had lost. Nothing could stop me now. These secrets had to be brought to light, and I was going to be the one to do it. The next morning, after discovering the truth, I went to the lawyer's office. The weight of what I was about to do was almost unbearable. But I knew I couldn't stand by and let them get away with this. I would fight for what was mine: my dignity, the truth, and the future of my unborn child. This wasn't just a battle for me. It was for the baby in my womb, someone I needed to protect at all costs. I had called a divorce lawyer, making sure I had a solid case with all the evidence I had gathered. The documents in my hands, fraudulent transactions, secret trips, everything would be brought to light. I couldn't continue living in the shadow of these lies. I wouldn't just quietly walk away. I would expose everything. What I had uncovered wasn't just personal betrayal. It was a larger network of deceit, and I couldn't let it continue. As I sat in the lawyer's office, the weight of this decision pressed down on me. Everything would change. Every step I took from here would lead to an ending. I was about to destroy everything. My husband, my sister, and my parents. None of them would ever be the same again. I had lost my trust in them, but now I was preparing to confront them once more, but this time in a battle with no mercy. When the lawyer handed me the papers, I felt a strange surge of energy. I was prepared for this moment, but my heart was still heavy. What would it feel like to make this decision? Could I face Damian, Elara, and even my own family after everything that had happened? They were the people I had trusted most, and now I had to confront their betrayal. I looked down at my hands, the hands that I would now use to sign these important papers. These would be the final declarations of my relationship with Damian and the people I loved. My heart ached as I thought of the months and years that had passed. The perfect family I thought I had, now shattered. But now everything was different. Love, trust, and everything I had built now seemed like broken pieces that could never be put back together. As I signed the divorce papers, I couldn't help but think of the child in my womb. Everything I did now wasn't just for myself, but for the future of this baby. The child would grow up in a world that I couldn't protect it from these betrayals. But at least I could do one thing, to fight for the truth, to defend my honor and the honor of the child. The faces of everyone in my family, Damian, Elara, even my parents, would never be the same again. No more peaceful family gatherings. Each time I thought of them, the pain grew. But I couldn't turn back. Everything had become so clear, and I couldn't back down now. As I stood up, my resolve became stronger. Part of me still felt afraid. But another part of me felt a sense of relief. Finally, I would no longer have to live in lies. It was time to take control of my life again. The time had come. I stood in front of my computer screen, feeling like the whole world was waiting for my decision. Everything I had prepared, evidence, documents, and irrefutable images, was now ready to be exposed. The final moments before I clicked post were ones I would never forget. I felt the storm building inside me, my heart pounding as if it wanted to leap out of my chest. 10 a.m. I posted the shocking evidence on social media. The images of my husband and sister on the cruise, intimate moments caught on camera, were shared everywhere. I couldn't suppress the mix of anger and relief I felt as I watched each photo, each video go live. Every word in my post was bitter, but also the truth that I could no longer keep hidden. I had lived in lies for too long, but now I was no longer afraid. Beyond social media, I also submitted an internal whistleblowing report to Damian's company, exposing his fraudulent activities. The ways he had used company funds for personal trips, the deceit in financial transactions, all of it laid out clearly. I couldn't let him continue hiding the truth under fake excuses. Now, the truth had to be exposed with no mercy. The consequences came immediately. Social media exploded, news outlets picked up the story, and the scandal spread across the front pages. Comments, reactions, everything flooded in like daggers cutting into my pain. They criticized, they were outraged, and I felt strangely detached, as if I was standing outside of it all, watching events unfold like a storm. What I had done couldn't be undone, but I no longer felt afraid. The most powerful moment came when I filed for divorce. Part of me was terrified, but another part, the part that had been deeply hurt, felt relief. I had not just ended my relationship with Damian, I had severed ties with a family built on deceit. Damian, my seemingly perfect husband, was now exposed as a liar and a betrayer. He was no longer the man I loved. He had destroyed everything, not only breaking my trust but tarnishing his own honor. Elara, my sister, had her real estate license revoked. I saw her image in the papers, exhausted, bewildered. The person I had once thought was a loving sister was now someone who had betrayed me in the most horrendous way. And my parents, the people who always told me family came first, were now shunned by society. They had been so focused on maintaining appearances, but now they had nothing left. The values they taught me seemed meaningless now. As I looked back at everything, I felt a mixture of pain and release wash over me. My eyes were filled with tears, but not from weakness. They were tears of liberation. I no longer had to live in the shadows of lies. Everything I had done, every decision I had made, had a reason. And now all that was left was the truth. In the year that followed, my life changed completely. I moved to a new city, far away from the chaos, and started over. Every step I took, every decision I made, felt like a rebirth, an opportunity to rebuild from the ruins. The early days weren't easy, but each morning I woke up, I realized I was living a new life. Not just a life physically, but a life of the soul, a life where I was in control. Emma, my daughter, was everything to me. Every day, I looked at her, and I knew that I would do anything to protect her from the pain I had endured. The years before, I had been blind, trusting too easily, loving without thinking. But now I knew how to love myself first. Emma was the only happiness I needed, and I would never let her suffer what I had suffered. No longer the woman I once was, the woman who blindly trusted, loved without hesitation. I was stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever before. I had learned that the truth was the only thing that could not be hidden forever. I had faced the worst storms and survived. Now I wasn't afraid. I knew I could face anything, As long as I had Emma by my side and peace in my heart, Damian and Elara had nothing left. Damian's career had collapsed. He was no longer the successful man I once knew. The fraudulent transactions, the lies he had hidden, were all exposed to the light. He could no longer escape the truth. His career was ruined by unforgivable mistakes. He had lost everything. Not just his career but also his honor, dignity, and family. Everything had become meaningless. As for Elara, my sister, the luxurious life she once had was now gone. Her real estate license had been revoked. I saw her face in the news, exhausted, bewildered. The person I had once thought of as a loving sister was now someone who had betrayed me in the most horrendous way. And my parents, the ones who had once been pillars of high society, were now just shadows of their former selves. They had been so focused on maintaining appearances, but now they had nothing left. What they had built over the years was wiped away. They had lost everything. Their obsession with outward appearances had cost them everything. I stood outside all of it looking at their lives, but I no longer felt pain or hatred. All I felt now was peace. I had nothing left to lose, but I had gained the most important thing, peace of mind. My life, though not easy, now felt free. I no longer had to live in the lies of my family, no longer had to fear betrayal. All I needed now was Emma and our new life together. Now, as I sit in my new office, looking out at the sparkling waters of Puget Sound, I know that the worst is behind me. I once thought I could never live beyond the shadow of my past, but I was wrong. The betrayal hurt me, but it could not defeat me. Yes, it knocked me down for a while, but I got back up. Every wound in my soul is now part of a new strength, a strength I never knew I had. Honestly, I've learned an important lesson through all of this. Sometimes you have to break the old to build the new. The memories of family, of Damian and Elara, are now just remnants I no longer need to worry about. They cannot hold me back in the past, and I've decided not to let old wounds drag me down anymore. I'm building something wonderful for myself and my daughter. Something filled with love, truth, and dignity. A life I deserve, a life Emma will grow up proud of. Looking out the window, I see the peaceful Puget Sound, its surface reflecting the light, much like my mind now, calm and clear. This new life isn't easy, but it's my choice and I don't regret it. I've decided not only to survive but to live fully. Each day that passes, I feel joy in the little things. Quiet mornings with Emma, productive evenings at work, and the sense of security that comes from knowing I'm in control of my life. As for my family, they've had their chance. Damian, Elara, my parents, they've all had their opportunity to change, to stand by me when I needed them the most. But they chose lies, they chose betrayal. They didn't keep their promises. And now they're no longer a part of my life. The only family that matters to me now is the one I've built. Emma and me. My daughter is the greatest gift I've ever had. And I will never let anything ruin our new life. Everything has changed. And I have changed. The betrayal couldn't knock me down. It couldn't take my belief in life away. In fact, it made me stronger. I know I deserve a peaceful life, a bright future. And most importantly, I know that I don't have to face that betrayal anymore. I've rebuilt from the rubble, and every day I'm proud of that. Life isn't always easy, but I've learned how to look ahead, to find strength in challenges. Emma and I will never go back to the past. We will keep moving forward, continuing to build a new future. A future where I know we will always be happy.
The story concludes with an important life lesson. Sometimes, we have to face betrayal to rediscover our strength and rebuild a better future. What do you think about this story? Feel free to leave your thoughts or feedback in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned for the next captivating story. We look forward to sharing more experiences and lessons with you in the upcoming episodes.